Hey everybody, we are going live to talk about 4 reasons why you binge and 14 reasons to stop. So, first off, I want to cover the frustration that can come from binging. Essentially, binging is these extreme urges to want to overeat, whether you're hungry or not. That is what binging is. And so you end up eating a lot more calories than you actually need, even if your stomach feels full. So that is binging. So we're going to be covering that and how to fix that. So in saying that, I want to say, like, if you do struggle with binge eating, I know how frustrating of an urge that can be, and how discouraging it can be. So I used to struggle really bad with binge eating. It was so bad that I basically like craved and thought about food all the time. And I would eat so much food. Like once I ate like 7 pounds of food. I know I did that at least once. 7 pounds of food, and that's like a ton of food. And the crazy thing about binge eating is even though your stomach may feel full, you either still have this extreme sense of hunger or you just can't make yourself stop. In my case, it was mostly the first. Even though I was eating so much food and my stomach itself felt full, there was something inside of me that still felt hungry. And so we're going to be talking about some 4 causes that can lead to that. Not all of these may apply to you. It could be one of these 4, or it could be all of these 4. So we're going to be talking about the problems and then the 14 steps on how to fix that. So the first trigger for binge eating is chronic undereating. So chronic undereating, or like say starving yourself, whether that is like maybe during certain meals, like say you normally skip breakfast and lunch and you only eat dinner, that could be a form of chronic undereating. Or it could be like you're in a really extreme diet for a long period of time, whether it's intentional or not. Diet meaning you're under eating calories. You're eating less calories than your body needs to maintain itself. Those all qualify as chronic undereating. So how does chronic undereating, how can that lead to urges to binge? Well, when you chronically undereat, at first your body, like at the beginning of that, your body will release a lot of adrenaline. And so your body uses adrenaline as energy instead of food as energy. And there's also an aspect of adrenaline to where it can decrease your hunger cravings. But with extended time under eating, eventually your body will stop using adrenaline. It stops kicking in, and your body ends up raising ghrelin. Now, ghrelin is a hormone which basically tells your brain that you need to eat food. It raises your hunger levels. So as you chronically undereat, your ghrelin levels increase over time. And then also, so let's say that you've been chronically undereating and you've lost, some fat or quite a bit of fat. What that can also do is lower your leptin levels. And when your leptin, which is another hormone, is too low, it can also lead to even more intense cravings for food. So with chronic undereating, it raises your ghrelin, which raises your hunger, and lowers your leptin, which also raises your hunger. So basically, you're having all these hormones released in your body that is giving you these extreme like hunger pangs. And this is due to chronic undereating. So, and then obviously what that can lead to when you have these extreme hunger pangs is it can lead to binge eating, because your body is so starving for either calories or nutrients that it essentially your body overestimates how much food it needs, And even if your stomach is feeling full, it can still cause you to want to just keep on eating and keep on eating. And that is the definition of binging. So, how do we fix binging when it comes from chronic undereating? Well, short story, stop undereating. But I know it's not as simple as that. Sometimes undereating can come from, being misled about like how to lose weight, or maybe it could be like forgetting to eat, things like that. So we're gonna address all those things. So, um, so other than the binging, chronic undereating can also lead to slowing down your metabolism and losing muscle mass. So if you were to start eating more after you've been eating chronically under eating for a long period of time, it can create a problem to where you end up gaining more fat because your metabolism slowed down. And also chronic under eating can also lead to not just losing fat, but losing muscle mass. And when you lose muscle mass, you end up getting that flabby look, which is otherwise known as skinny fat. So definitely want to avoid chronic under eating for the binging, slowing down the metabolism, and how it can negatively change the way that your body looks. So when it comes to trying to overcome chronic under eating, you should be having at least 2 meals per day. I would recommend 3 or more meals, like 3 meals plus a couple of snacks if you have a history of binge eating. So if you have a really long history of binge eating, then it's more than likely that your body just really, really needs more support and nourishment. So that's where the 3+ meals comes from. And if you're getting regular food in throughout your day, then that is going to minimize those extreme urges to binge. So that's what I would recommend in that case. Now, if you are trying to lose fat, but you're wanting to get out of the problem of chronically under eating, you should be in a caloric deficit, but you should only be in a deficit of about 250 to 500 calories per day. For most people, any more than that is going to qualify as, kind of like, starvation dieting, which falls into the category of chronic undereating, which, as we just discussed, poses all those other problems. So if you're trying to lose fat, don't take away more than 250 to 500 calories. But I would say if you have a history of chronic undereating and binge eating as a result of chronic undereating, then I would say your best bet is not to diet at all for a time, because more than likely your body needs to heal from the damage that you've done from chronic undereating and from the binging, of course, as well. And so that's going to look like either eating at maintenance calories, so you're not trying to lose weight at all, or even doing a reverse diet, which will help to repair your metabolism if you have done damage to your metabolism. I don't have trainings on that right now. So if you need help with the maintenance or reverse dieting and how to do that, just let me know. If the chronic undereating is coming from difficulty remembering to eat, I know some people struggle with that, whether it's, skipping breakfast or you get so busy throughout your day that you just forget to eat, then a fix for that can be, if you normally skip breakfast, just make yourself start eating breakfast. Even if you're usually not hungry in the mornings, just make yourself eat breakfast. Or of course, another solution is if it's coming from forgetting to eat, then you can simply just put alarms on your phone, like maybe set an alarm for breakfast at 9 a.m. Lunch is at 1 p.m. every day, and dinner is at 5 or 6 p.m. every day. Whatever works for you. Those are just examples. And that way you're getting reminders to eat. And then eventually, as that just becomes routine, you naturally will remember to eat without having an alarm to have to remind you. So what is the second trigger for binge eating? Well, the second one could be cutting out entire macros. So macros or macronutrients are proteins, carbs, and fats. I'm pretty sure many of you have heard of like low fat diets, or low carb diets, whether that's keto or Atkins or something else. So those are diets in which you um, drastically reduce one specific macro. Normally it's carbs or fats. And so while, while those type of diets can have their place for some people for a specified amount of time, and what I'm trying to get at is these are not necessarily diet approaches that you would want to do for the rest of your life. But there are some situations for some people in which that could be helpful. For example, I'm not going to go into all the examples, but I'm going to give one example in which a low carb diet might be appropriate, and that would be someone with Alzheimer's. So Alzheimer's, some doctors are finding out that Alzheimer's is kind of like type 3 diabetes. It's your brain's inability to absorb glucose, which is a carb, and glucose is the predominant energy source for the brain. So if your brain during Alzheimer's has an inability to basically use glucose, a carb, then that would be a good situation in which a low carb diet, and so instead of, eating mostly like proteins and carbs, they instead eat fats and proteins. And what your body can do from those fats is it can turn fat into ketones and use those ketones as energy. And they have found when Alzheimer's patients do this, that they finally just have more mental clarity and just more ability overall because their brain is finally getting energy. They're not getting energy from glucose, a carb anymore, but they're getting energy from ketones, from a fat source. So that would be an example in which that would be appropriate. But for most people, it's not a good idea to chronically go without or minimal fat or without or minimal carbs. And the reason why, so there are a couple reasons. So the problem with eating low carb is, so problem number one is it can reduce your performance in the gym. So carbs are stored in both your liver and your muscles. And carbs are a quick source of energy, which your body, especially your muscles and your central nervous system, the brain, like we talked about with the Alzheimer's patients, your body thrives off of carbs. And the reason why is because carbs are really easy to convert into energy. So yes, while your body can learn to convert ketones, ketone energy from fat, like we talked about with the high fat diet with the Alzheimer's patients, it does take time for your body to learn how to do that. But still, ketones are not as efficient as carbohydrates are. And that's where it can pretty drastically reduce your performance in the gym. So if you're doing like heavy weightlifting, your body is not going to perform as well. And as a result, your body, because your body knows the carbs are going to give it the most energy source and the best performance in the gym, naturally your body is going to basically make you crave carb-rich foods because it's saying, hey, we really need this energy source to do our job. So that's where chronically eating low carb can cause problems there and make you crave carb-rich foods and also binge on carb-rich foods. So low carb diets can also lead to poor energy and mental clarity. Like we talked about before, glucose, which is a carb, is your brain's main energy source. Yes, it can convert ketones from fats, but it's a longer process and it takes your body longer to like figure out or to become more efficient at it. So let's say So basically, like if your brain isn't getting enough glucose, which is energy for your brain, then it can lead to, again, your body saying, hey, we need more carbs because, our brain needs this. And oftentimes that can lead to urges to binge on carb-rich foods. So where low carb problems can also be a problem is, so it's basically like high stress situations. So carbs have a shutting off effect on cortisol, and cortisol is a stress hormone. Also, interesting fact. So if your cortisol is chronically elevated, it can also lead to more adipose fat storage in your abdominal region specifically. So if you're high stress, whether the stress is, mental, like say you're in school and learning a lot, or you're at work and have to use your brain a lot, or let's say it's emotional or physical stress, your body knows that carbohydrates have a shutting off effect of cortisol. So that again can make your body crave to an extreme level more carbohydrates, because it's like, hey, we need something to help us cope with this high stress. And we know that carbs are going to help us do that. So what is let's see, did I cover that? Oh, okay. So we're not done with that yet. Okay. So what are the low fat problems that can occur leading to binging and things like that? So cholesterol, which can only come from fat, is required for your body to make its own hormones, whether that's sex hormones, growth hormones, thyroid hormones, whatever. So if you've been eating low fat for an extended time, your body could be running low on hormones of any type, which can then lead to extreme cravings, and it's in an attempt for your body to get the nutrients it needs to survive and thrive. So your body doesn't just want to survive, it also wants to thrive. And so that's why when you're either taking away lots of carbs or lots of fats, and we'll get into other things that can cause us problems, it just makes your body have these intense cravings for either carb-rich foods if you are eating low carb, or fat-rich food if you are eating low fat for a long time. And it's your body's way of telling you, we need something from this macronutrient. So hormones are a big problem if you are chronically eating low fat. So dietary fat is also required to properly absorb vitamins A, D, E, and K. So it doesn't matter if you're getting plenty of those vitamins in your diet or through direct supplementation, because if you're not consuming enough fats, your body will not absorb those fat soluble vitamins. So those vitamins are fat soluble, meaning that in order for them to be absorbed, you have to consume them with fats. So all of that can lead to vitamin and mineral deficiencies and health problems. So, and again, like as a result, because your body knows it needs fat, it can greatly increase your cravings for fat-rich foods so that your body is getting the vitamins and nutrients it needs. So, and it creates that just over craving, so to speak, of fats, because your body is like, hey, we need this macronutrient and we need to be able to absorb these fat soluble vitamins. Okay. So then how do you fix urges to binge that are coming from macro deficiencies? Well, that means that you're going to have to start gradually eating more carbs or fats if you've been low carb or low fat. And so the reason why you want to start gradually is because if you've been eating low carb or low fat, your body has gotten used to digesting certain macros in a certain way. Like your body breaks down carbs differently than your body breaks down fats. For example, in order to break down fats, your liver and your gallbladder need to produce more bile. But if you've been chronically eating low fat and mostly carbs, then your body isn't going to be used to creating so much bile because it hasn't needed to make it because you're eating very little fat. So when you are introducing these macronutrients back into your diet, you want to do so gradually. If you've been low carb for a long time, then I recommend adding about 10 to 20 grams of carbs every 10 to 14 days. So a week and a half to 2 weeks. And then if you've been chronically under eating fat, then I recommend, adding in about 5 to 10 grams of fat every 10 to 14 days as well. And that'll give your body pretty good, adequate time to, adjust its digesting process in order to better digest more of whatever macronutrient you're not used to having. But if you are, so when I say adding in more carbs or adding in more fats, if you're wanting to stay at maintenance, meaning not gaining weight or losing weight, you are going to need to take away those calories from the other macronutrient. So for example, if you've been eating low fat for a long time and you want to introduce more fats, you're going to have to take away some of those calories from carbs. So if you need help figuring that out, just let me know and I will guide you through that. So what this will also do is, as you reintroduce these macros that you're not used to having, it'll also give you more food freedom with carbs or fats, whichever one it is. And that can also alleviate like any food fears that you've had with, avoiding certain foods because they had too high of fat or too high of carbs. And that can also lend to helping you not binge eat because you're removing that food fear and you are giving yourself more food freedom, as well as also providing your body the macro that it's been needing this whole time. Okay, so what is the third trigger? The third trigger for binge eating is mineral deficiency. So this is a really interesting one. This is one that I'm really passionate about. I know for a fact this was one of my big triggers. One of my big triggers was it's actually the first three. We haven't covered the fourth one. I was chronically under eating for years. I didn't realize it at the time. This is before I got educated in nutrition. And I was eating low fat for like a few years. And I know I had mineral deficiencies, absolutely. So like for a time, for years, I avoided salting my food. I would occasionally salt my last meal of the day, dinner, and that was like a treat for me and it's so sad because I thought that, sodium would make you retain water, which it can in the beginning, but as your body gets used to more and more sodium, your body counteracts that by allowing your kidneys to excrete more sodium through your urine. So it ends up balancing out. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about how mineral deficiencies can lead to extreme urges to binge. So, and this also ties into triggers 1 and 2. Mineral deficiencies can come from chronically under eating, and it can come from removing or minimizing macronutrients. So if you're wanting to address mineral deficiencies, you have to address that you are eating enough food and that you're getting the appropriate balance of all of the macronutrients, all three of them: proteins, carbs, and fats. So what are minerals? So minerals are basically, they're like the spark plugs to thousands of bodily processes. basically, if you're not getting minerals, your body is not able to do its thousands of different jobs within the body. So like if a car doesn't have spark plugs, it's not running. Same thing with your body. If your body is not getting enough minerals, it's not able to do the many different jobs that it needs to do to not just survive, but also thrive. So, and that can lead to health problems, whether that's health with your thyroid, health problems with your gut health, immune system, libido, energy, sleep, so many different things, mineral deficiencies, or whether it's an excess of some minerals, which cause a deficit in other minerals, that can throw so many things out of whack. And interesting fact, did you know that extreme sugar cravings actually can come from not just chronically under eating and not just being low carb, but it can also come from a salt deficiency, sodium. So basically, like if you have extreme cravings for sugar, which I definitely did when I had my problems with binge eating, and part of it was because I was avoiding salt. But once I started incorporating salt and doing the other things like eating more food, slowly over time, those extreme urges to binge went away completely, like completely. I'll tell you about my before and after all of this stuff. So another example would be, so intense cravings for chocolate could be coming from a magnesium or copper deficiency. So basically, your cravings is your body's way of telling you you need a certain either mineral, vitamin, or you need more calories, or you need more of that macro. Now, don't confuse that with like, oh, I'm craving a, fried chicken. Oftentimes, if you're craving fried food, it's because your body needs more calories, or it needs more fats. So like in my past, when I struggled with these things, I always craved fried foods and I always craved sweets. And I would back then, like I would eat so much of both of those. And that was just my go-to, like all the time, whenever I gave into my binging urges. So don't confuse craving like really inflammatory foods like fried foods as your body. Oh, this is my body's way of saying I need fried chicken. No, you don't need fried chicken. You need either more calories, more fats, or more minerals. So basically, listen to your body when it's craving something. So how do you fix binging from mineral deficiencies? Well, again, like we talked about, first you want to make sure that you are eating enough calories, because if you're not eating enough food, you inevitably aren't going to be getting enough nutrients. You're not going to be getting enough vitamins or minerals. So eating more food is the first step in upping your mineral levels. And then the second step would be, again, make sure that you're getting adequate amounts of all of the macronutrients. And then from there, you want to make sure that you're eating plenty of whole foods. So yes, you could fix trigger number one, chronically undereating, by upping your calories with junk food. But junk food is not going to have nearly as good of vitamins or minerals as whole foods will. So step number 3 would be to make sure you're eating plenty of whole foods. And then from there, you might want to consider supplementing with a blend of electrolytes. So electrolytes would be sodium, potassium, chloride. It's more than that. That's just off the top of my head. And that can help to up your minerals. Also, if you have like adrenal insufficiency, it can help with that as well. Because, for example, like your adrenals really need a lot of minerals, specifically electrolytes. Your thyroid does too. Really, mineral deficiencies can affect so many organs and processes within your body. So supplementing with a mineral or electrolyte blend can help with that. If you are wanting to know specifically what minerals you might have deficiency in or you might have excess in, I highly recommend doing an HTMA, a hair tissue mineral analysis. Those have been found to be really, really accurate. They are, when it comes to a clearer picture of what's going inside of your body, HTMAs can be more accurate than blood work, and they can be easier for you yourself to read as well. So if you need help reading an HTMA, just let me know and I can help you with that. Generally, they run about, I want to say $100 off the top of my head. So they are a lot cheaper than like doing Dutch hormone tests or other blood work. And they can help you like know what is your specific issue when it comes to minerals. So what else can you do for mineral deficiencies? So 2 big tips that I really like to give all of my clients is 1, salt everything to taste, including your liquids. And that includes your coffee. So for most people, your body will let you know how much salt you need based off of like your own personal taste buds. And this can change during time. For example, when I started to let myself have more salt, I guess it was because I went so long with avoiding salt that I used so much freaking salt. Like, I know for a fact at some point I was getting at least 20 grams of sodium a day. 20 grams, that's 20,000 milligrams. But it did my body so much good and I felt so much better. And then over time, I guess as my sodium levels were, becoming more normal within my body and systems, like I gradually over time started to use less and less salt according to just what I naturally craved. And then the second big step that I really like to recommend to my clients is to take liver daily. I personally like to, because I don't like the taste of liver, like cooking it and like actually eating it as a meal. I take it raw and I cut it in like, probably like inch cubes. And then I just swallow it with water. I don't even taste it because I put it in the back of my throat and then I just gulp down a bunch of water and I don't taste it at all. But if you personally like liver, that's totally fine. Yeah, so the reason why I recommend liver is liver has so many different like vitamins and minerals. And because it's coming from actual food, not like a vitamin that's been like engineered in a lab and has like synthetic vitamins, because these vitamins and minerals are coming from food, which is the liver, these vitamins and minerals are extremely bioavailable for your body, which means your body is going to actually absorb these vitamins and minerals versus just peeing them out, which is what happens with a lot of conventional supplements. So what is the 4th trigger for binge eating? That is avoiding solving emotional or mental stress, which is otherwise known as comfort eating. So comfort eating can actually create many problems. Like not only does, if it's leading to binging, not only does eating more food than your body actually needs, like not only does it lead to like fat gain and obesity related health problems, but if you're using food to comfort you, and if it's comforting you at all, it's only for a brief time, because inevitably you end up feeling guilty after you end up binging on this food. But you're also avoiding whatever problem or pain that caused you to want to go to food for comfort in the first place. And so, again, not only does that lead to fat gain, health problems, and regret, but it also leaves that problem unsolved. And when that problem goes unsolved, it more than likely can ferment inside yourself, or the situation itself can become worse. So, to give an analogy, avoiding problems is kind of like say you're riding a bike and you crash and you hurt your knee and it gets cut. It's an open wound, you're bleeding. And the normal response is you have pain, you feel the pain, and you do something to fix the pain. And that is, first, you recognize the pain, you feel it. 2, you clean the wound, whether that's from dust or any other debris that you can't see, like bacteria or anything else. You clean it, and then you put ointment on it and a bandage on it to help it heal. That's a normal response to pain and injury. But if you're addressing pain and injury like you might be doing with comfort eating, you're instead you crash, you have an open wound on your knee, you ignore the pain and just keep on going about your life. It's all dirty and bleeding. It's still open. It's exposed to, anything that could touch it or come in contact with it. And more than likely, that wound is going to ferment and fester. It's likely going to become infected. And so not only did you have this initial problem that was painful and, a potential risk to bigger problems, but you've allowed it to become a bigger problem. And now maybe your blood is getting infected, or, maybe even your bone is getting infected, and it just becomes this huge problem. That's essentially, if you are comfort eating, that's essentially what you're doing with whatever problem that you're avoiding. So, how do you address that? How do you stop comfort eating? Well, basically, you have to face your problem, whatever the problem is, so actually first what you have to do is you have to allow yourself to feel the pain. A lot of times when people comfort eat, they don't want to feel the pain. And so they go to food to help them mask it and not feel it. So the first step for, obviously avoiding comfort eating is to allow yourself to feel the pain so that you can recognize what needs to be addressed, just like the scenario of the wounded knee. And then from there, you basically have to face your problems head on so that you can, address whatever that problem it is, whether that's with another person, whether that's within yourself, or whether that's setting proper boundaries with someone else or setting proper boundaries within yourself. And then from there, after you have addressed the problem, you can finally heal. And so not only if you're comfort eating, not only will this help you to, prevent overeating and gaining fat and having, potential health problems, but it can also strengthen you mentally and emotionally and heal internally, and, have better relationships with other people as well. So, does anybody have any questions before I finalize everything? Check Facebook.
Hey, this is Tanya.
Hey, Tanya.
Hey, I don't have any questions, but I will admit that I'm guilty of doing that, of the binge eating history.
Yeah. Yeah. So because I know some of your history, yeah, I can honestly say part of that was due to you chronically under ate for years. Like I know, so
Right.
before you started coaching with me, you were eating like 800 to 1,000 calories a day, which is nothing. Like they
Yeah,
say,
if that.
yeah. They say that like even for kids, they shouldn't eat less than like 1,200 calories a day. And you're full grown adults and you were eating even less than that for years. And then also you were avoiding carbs for a long time.
Right.
Um, which again, that low carb can have its place for, I would say, short amount of time. But for your situation, it definitely didn't need to be years. And then
No.
did you
But,
have a history of avoiding salt too?
yes, and I mean, I did the low fat, I did the low calorie, I did the low carb. Um, but before I got with you, I mean, no matter what I did, I still binge ate.
Yeah.
Like especially when it came to like an emotional response.
Yeah.
You know, get upset, and that's what you do. Well, that's
Yeah.
what I.
Well, another thing with the emotional eating is that can also be a stress response. And remember how we talked about how in order for cortisol to be turned off, which is a stress hormone, you need carbohydrates. But you don't
Right.
just need carbohydrates, you need adequate carbohydrates. And then if you are chronically under eating, that is another form of stress on your body. So you're getting more stress that won't turn off because you're eating low carb. And then you're getting more stress because you're not giving your body enough fuel to survive.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle. And
Really.
I'm glad we broke it.
I know. I mean, I totally know. Like, I've been there before. Like, I cannot tell you how extreme my cravings were. Like, they were uncontrollable, they were insatiable. Like, when I would give in to my binge urges, I would like eat that whole day, even if my stomach literally felt stuffed and it was like going to explode. I still had this desire to urge. So, I'm sorry, this desire to binge eat.
Even
And
hungry, you still want to
yeah,
do it.
and now that I've learned so much more since then, I realized it was because I chronically underate. I avoided carbs at one point. I avoided fats at another point. I basically dieted for years on end, and you know, um, now that like I'm educated and I've helped tons of clients, like I now know that you should never diet for more than 16 weeks at a time. And I was dieting for like years on end. And then the other thing was I was mineral deficient because I wasn't eating enough calories, I was avoiding macros, and I avoided salt. But once I addressed all those things, once I started eating more, once I started having a balance of protein, carbs, and fats, once I started to allow myself to eat more salt, like I can honestly say I never have urges to binge at all. Like I even if I think about it, like would I want to binge? And I'm like, no, I don't want to. Like I just want to eat my normal healthy food and I'm happy. And there were so many problems that came from when I used to just have this huge desire to binge all the time. Like it would take away time from my family. I felt like, and then I would feel guilty about eating all that food. And so I couldn't be present with my family.
Right.
And yeah, it created so many problems outside the physical as well. And now that like I've addressed those things, I actually have freedom. And it's genuine freedom. It's not like, oh, I just control myself from binging. No, I truly do not desire to binge at all anymore.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I know I don't either, and I'm really glad because it got out of control,
Yeah,
and I
and
didn't
that's
know
awesome.
how to stop it.
What was that?
I didn't know how to stop it,
Yeah,
like when I did it.
yep. It's a vicious cycle. And that's what like I know a lot of people don't know how to stop it, and that's why I'm doing this training because all these things help substantially.
Yes, they really do.
Mm-hmm. Um, cool. Do you have any other questions? If you're live on Facebook and you have a question, just go ahead and type it in the comments section. Okay. Think we're done. So yeah, stay tuned next Monday. We do a live training every Monday. If you have a topic that you want me to teach about, just make a post in the Facebook group, Strong and Lean, and 2 times a week, and I will cover that topic for you. But yeah, thanks for joining, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.